Thursday, what we're going to talk about. But because the Browns played on Thursday, we had so much to react to from the game on Friday, we decided to hold it for Monday. But it is absolutely worth revisiting, and we're going to play the clip. If anyone missed it, and G, I believe you heard it, we have the clip. Earl, I know you tweeted about it. I tweeted about it. Bull, you tweeted about it. Before we play this, G, did you see the Kyle Brandt clip? Do you know exactly what we're about to reference?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So for anyone out there who hasn't heard it, it's about 2.5 minutes. We're going to play that. We're going to react to it because I know we all have some pretty strong thoughts on what Kyle Brandt had to say about covering the Cleveland Browns. Steve?
Be completely candid here, cards on the table. I still think the Cleveland Browns are difficult to talk about, let alone hype, because of their quarterback. Look, Deshaun Watson, I believe, did some really creepy things off the field and then got the largest contract in NFL history, and it's part of the conversation. Look no further than the preseason game when the venerable Chris Collinsworth did his best attempt to describe what Deshaun Watson had gone through, chose words that people didn't like to describe it, and he was criticized for it. That's merely just him trying to get the viewer up to speed of what went on in Deshaun Watson's life. I think it's difficult. You have to compartmentalize, and that's our job as broadcasters, and we do it almost every time with Deshaun Watson. It's football, it's in the past, it's all of that. But as a human being or an NFL fan, you get to choose who you get to root for and whose jersey you get to buy. So if you're not comfortable buying Deshaun Watson's jersey or rooting for him or hyping him or drafting him on your fantasy team, I think that is part of the Browns' discussion. Maybe it'll become less so as we move on, certainly if they keep winning. But I would also look no further than I think it's difficult for the Browns to talk about Deshaun Watson. Look at the Browns' official Twitter accounts. It's not a lot of their star quarterback with the biggest contract in NFL history. He's there, but like if you look at the Bills with Allen or the Chargers with Herbert, it's like our quarterback, and it's the slow motion QB1, and stuff's not there. And I sympathize with those people who have to run that account because it is difficult. And the times they do put Deshaun Watson stuff, the comments are not pretty, and nor should they be. So I feel difficult because there's a lot of good people working for the Browns and a lot of good players, but this is part of the discussion. It's not something you just snap your fingers and say, yeah, I love it, I'm totally in, I love this guy, I love this team. It's very difficult to do. We're going to try to keep it to football, but it's still hard.
Once they blow the whistle, I don't think the players are like, now wait a second.
I don't think so either, but I think it's more than the media. I think it's the millions and millions of fans. And the answer to your questions, Jason, is maybe never. Maybe you just decide that's not someone who I root for, and that's fine. And I can see this kind of an eye roll factor about it's August and it's here as a Thursday morning. Why are we dragging this up? Authenticity. This is what people are talking about. It's very easy to say, I love what they did with the pass rush, and I think all that stuff is fine. What is the elephant in the room? And having an actual real conversation, if you're saying that's not part of the conversation, you're not paying attention. And I don't think we're sitting here saying he shouldn't be playing, he shouldn't be walking the street. It's just like, if you don't want to root for him, I understand why. And it's difficult to talk about the Browns a little bit at this point. What's going to be really interesting is if they start 3-0. And that he looks like the best player in the AFC. And then we'll get to it. But this is not something you just say, well, it's not like a player coming back from an injury or they had a bad season last year. This is a totally different thing with a lot of different people involved. So it's evolving. We're trying to compartmentalize. The answer to the question is why they've been overlooked. They're difficult to talk about.
The first thing when I saw this, guys, on Friday, I saw it or Thursday night, whenever I saw it, was I tried to find out if he had said the same thing about Ben Roethlisberger. First of all, unfortunately, what happens when this clip happens is then it turns into an argument about what Deshaun Watson did or didn't do. For me personally, I have no interest in that conversation. We've talked about that a million times. I have no longer any interest in debating the merits of what Deshaun Watson did or didn't do. However, I think talking about, did Kyle Brandt ever go on a rant about how hard it is to talk about the Steelers with what Ben Roethlisberger was accused of? Joe Mixon's been accused of a number of things early before he went to the NFL, and once again recently this has come up. Mixon and his agent are embarrassing themselves with their behavior with the Cincinnati media, which is even softer than our soft Cleveland media. And is he having a hard time talking about the Bengals? No, I don't think he's having a hard time talking about the Bengals. If I go to every team in the NFL, if I go to every business in America, I would guarantee you that 90% of them have at least one employee that has been accused or has done something inappropriate from either a sexual or a physical nature. That's the way it is. I don't say that to excuse any of it. I say it because that's the reality of the situation. So I just think Kyle Brandt, he talks about being genuine, or it's part of the story. Everybody knows the story already. Nobody watching a Browns Commanders preseason game needs the update on Deshaun Watson's off the field stuff. He has the right to talk about it, but don't say he has to, Chris Collinsworth, because everybody knows about it. Everybody. My wife, who is not much of a sports fan, said to me, we were talking about Deshaun Watson yesterday. She said to me, what position does he play? Okay? Because my wife doesn't pay attention to, she likes baseball. She doesn't really pay attention to football. All right? Even when she watches the show or listens to me on the radio and now the podcast, she don't know what the hell's going on when it comes to football. The only thing she don't know what position Deshaun Watson plays, but she's heard the off the field stuff because she's heard me talk about it. She heard other people talk about it. That doesn't need to be explained to anybody anymore. I just think my beef with Kyle Brandt is I don't think he's being genuine here, and I like Kyle Brandt a lot. I like that show. I like Peter Schrager. I like Kyle Brandt. I think Kyle Brandt's really funny. I just think he dropped the ball here. I feel like he, like so many others in the media, feel like they have to qualify any conversation with Deshaun Watson about talking about the off-the-field stuff. And I think most football fans, not just Browns fans, don't care anymore. Like it or not. Like what Deshaun Watson, whatever you feel about him and what he did, you have the right to feel whatever the hell you want. You don't like Deshaun Watson? You're entitled. That's fine. Do you. But I don't think most football fans care about off-the-field stuff, whether it's him or anybody else. They want to hear about football. That's how I see it.
I mean, for me, the beef I got with Kyle behind this is the selective morality, right? As you alluded to, first of all, let me preface my comments by saying everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But you can look across the NFL, all 32 teams, and find somebody from ownership to anybody that's on the cleaning staff that has a sketchy situation or has had a sketchy situation. Like you said, boy, it doesn't stop you from talking about them. In a tweet that I put out, I referenced the Alvin Kamara situation. And this is why I call it selective morality. It amazes me how 3 men jump a man, damn near beat him to death, put him in a hospital, severely injured, charges come about, and yet that story did not get the same national coverage as the Deshaun Watson story. We know why it didn't, because Deshaun Watson's situation involved 20-plus accusations from women. And the selective morality is, okay, so it's okay to damn near beat him.
Although it is also because he's a quarterback and he got traded.
It's damn near okay. So basically you're saying to me, it's okay to beat a man half to death and it's no big deal because that's a male. As if into saying violence against males is okay, but accusations against women are not okay. You got to keep the same energy across the board, right? This moral code about violence and things being disruptive and things that makes it uneasy to talk about. Kyle Brandt was on Good Morning Football when the Cleveland Browns signed Kareem Hunt. You didn't have no problem talking about the Cleveland Browns when there was video evidence of what Kareem Hunt has done. So my thing is, you can't sit up here and try to punish 52 other players on a roster because you have a personal bias. And in my opinion, he has a personal bias against Deshaun Watson. You got to keep that same energy across the board because, like I said, selective morality. You're basically screaming to me it's okay for a male to go through something at the hands of an NFL player. That's all right. That's cool. No big deal. He's a running back. Alvin Kamara's a running back. That's a man. No big deal. But because Deshaun Watson is a quarterback and we're talking about females, all of a sudden your moral code is raised to this height. And then you keep bringing up his money. Like last I checked, he's like the 6th or the 7th highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now, not the highest. Eugene.
Well, I've tried to dissect this thing in multiple different layers, but we'll try to come at it at a different layer. Since the beginning of time, since this game has started, quarterbacks have been known to have a certain characteristic. When you are African American coming up and you was playing quarterback, they'll shift you to any other position but quarterback. We don't. They say, well, you don't have the people skills. You don't have the temperament. Maybe you're too good of an athlete. Maybe you can't digest the playbook. Maybe you just don't have what it takes to be the face of a franchise. They've done that since the beginning of time. That's not a thing. Even when you go to the combine, they stopped having to ask these guys Wonderlic questions because the questions were culturally inappropriate, right? They had to stop saying, hey, is your mother a crackhead? How can you say that, right? In these interviews. Fast forward to where we are right now. The reality of it is every single quarterback is the CEO of an organization. They are the face of 32 top-notch franchises that are Fortune 500. When they say and mention how much money he's making, that comes from a place we're saying, we don't even think you should even be making that type of money anyway. You just now got to the point where we started now interacting and putting black quarterbacks in a position to be the face of organizations. And to be truthful, there's a lot of people that didn't like that. Some people that might not really still like that, but if you're really talented, they'll overlook at it. But the second you mess up is the second they put you right back in your place. You lucky we let you be a quarterback. You could have been playing receiver with your homeboy from down the street. When you mention the 238, you consistently mention that. They understand what it is. Capitalism is here for all of us to see. They tell you when you go to the voting box, capitalism. We don't like socialism, giving away free stuff. We don't like communism. We don't like that. We like capitalism. Okay, well, good. Well, why is it capitalism is good for every single business owner out here? You don't even want to give out minimum wage increases because you don't want regulations. You don't want anything. You want to make as much money as you possibly can, except when it comes to maybe a certain demographic of people. Why you got a problem with 238? We don't hear 238 with Herbert. We don't hear 238 with Big Ben. We never even understood how much these guys were making. But when he got in here and they started talk about 238, they saying to themselves, you don't deserve that. We don't even like how you even representing our era. Because the only people that get guaranteed contracts is the quarterbacks. So that's how they view the situation. If you look at it, and if we could just get rid of the conversation of 238, everybody understands and have been through economics. The Cleveland Browns didn't pay him 238 based on his talent. The Cleveland Browns paid him 238 based on the market value of a franchise quarterback and their track record of not being able to identify and get a quarterback. They swung and missed on Baker. They had no other options. They had a team that was ready now. It has nothing to do with whether Deshaun is worth 238. You're paying for the fact that you couldn't get a quarterback. Now that you got it, you have to pay a premium. Everyone understands that. If I want a plane ticket in 3 months, I could get it for $55, cheap as dirt, right? But if I want a red eye and get on the plane right now and go to Italy, that's going to cost me $2,500. It's economics. It's the supply and demand. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are basically upset the fact that they feel that a person who is in that upper echelon has put a stain on the quarterback position by being alleged doing what he did and being rewarded for doing what he said he was doing. At the end of the day, that's not the way life works. That's the way they do it. And they playing dumb if they act like they don't know what's going on.
I don't understand. I mean, I know everybody brings up the money all the time. In the context of what Kyle Brandt was talking about, bringing up the money doesn't even make any sense.
It didn't even make sense at all.
Because if Jimmy Garoppolo was accused of the exact same things that Deshaun Watson is, and he's making $50 million or whatever the hell he's making, would you have brought, like, it wouldn't be any less awful, the accusations, based on the money. To me, it's like two totally separate
The money
issues.
has nothing to do with...
The money has zero to do with what you're talking about.
And
Are you more bothered by watching the Browns because he's making more money?
But that's not truthful, though, Bull. When you go back to this summer, Lamar Jackson hasn't done anything to anybody. But every single time you turn the TV on, it was, he's not worth that money. He's not worth that money. He's not getting that money. Let me ask, that's so crazy to me because they say Well, if you weren't like Deshaun Watson, we wouldn't count your pockets. But that's not a lot. We seen a guy in Lamar Jackson who wanted to negotiate his own deal, who has never done anything outside the bounds of anything wrong. And people, the Kyle Brandt, everybody on TV, hey, he's so dumb. Why would he let his mom do that? He's costing himself money. Lamar Jackson isn't really even that good anyway. Now, all of a sudden, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, listen, that's a couple people in a row you're really counting checks with. I didn't see the same thing with Herbert. I didn't see the same thing with Allen. I didn't see the same thing with the regular traditional way that you go about doing it. Anytime if you are a African-American quarterback, they tell you you better do it the way Brady did it. If you ain't doing it like Brady, if you're not doing it like the Mannings, you're ruffling feathers. Calm that down and stand in line, because guess what? There's a lot of your brethren up here, these running backs and receivers, they're not getting guaranteed contracts. So for you getting a guaranteed deal, there's a set of standards that we need you to live by.
And you know what's
G,
so crazy?
Before you go on real quick, G, and only I'm telling you this because a lot of what you just said, I totally agree with. It's 230, not 238. And when we post social clips, I want to make sure we got the right number, because you know how social clips work.
Yeah.
And you can make the best point in the world, and it'll be like, it's 232, not 238. This
So-
is 238. So I'm just telling you future reference. It's not 238. It's 230. Earl, all you.
All right, so something else he said, and it kind of ties into what G was saying, but boy, I think it was like last week, a couple weeks ago, we was going back and forth about, keeping that same energy. One of the things he said in that clip, maybe it'll be easier to talk about if the Browns are winning.
Right.
And this is after he had talked about the money. And this is why I feel so strongly about people keeping that same energy, because the information didn't change, right? The information about Deshaun Watson to this date is the same. So why all of a sudden does it become easier down the road if the Browns are winning to talk about Deshaun Watson and the Browns, right?
If he's being real. Now, I thought he was
means he's
alluding to
being
maybe
fake.
other fans.
But that's just the example to go back to
Yeah.
a conversation we had a couple weeks ago. That's why I feel so strongly about that, because none of the information about Deshaun Watson has changed. Everything is what it is, right? But to me, he comes off as a man that has a personal bias against Deshaun Watson. I think he believes the accusations against him. I think he's frustrated that this man had those type of accusations against him, and then he got that type of money, $230 million over 5 years, right?
Right.
So he's pissed off about it. He feels some type of way, and because of him being our quarterback, the rest of the team was uneasy to talk about. But let Deshaun Watson go out here and ball out this year like crazy. Let him actually live up to the contract. Let's say he actually does everything that Browns fans want us to do. All of a sudden, why Kyle Brandt is it easier now to talk about the Browns than Deshaun Watson? The information
I
didn't change.
think if he does that, then it's fair to call him out on that.
Yeah.
I mean, if all of a sudden he's waxing poetic about Deshaun Watson, but I think fans would even I get what you're saying, but I think our fans would want everybody to stop saying that anyway, because our fans don't want to hear that negative stuff. And there you go. Now, Patrick Mahomes, nobody talks about his money.
No.
To be fair.
Well, here there's I don't even want to. I don't even want to go into that dynamic,
Okay.
Right?
Right,
I just want to. Like it's. I just said there's a difference between Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick, like you got to think about it like this. Once again, don't rock the boat. We don't care. Like it comes down to that, right? Look, think about it. We even heard from Kyler Murray. He don't read his iPad. I said, at what point in time did he got a contract coming up? All of a sudden it's, man, we got to put in this contract that if he don't read his iPad, that he not going to be eligible for all this money. It's like, wow, where did that clause come from?
Now, also, listen, race is a part of everything. It's a factor all the time. There's no doubt about it. It's not the only factor.
No.
People have shit on Kirk Cousins a lot for the money he's made, right? That has happened. He's been, he doesn't deserve this money. He don't win.
But I didn't hear that push when Kirk Cousins got that. When Kirk Cousins got that guaranteed deal, the consensus was good for him, good for Kirk. He had to sit behind RG3.
I think I disagree with you a little bit on Lamar Jackson, because I feel like with Lamar Jackson, there's a lot of people in the media that are afraid to criticize him at all. That if anybody criticizes Lamar Jackson, There are a lot of people. There's always going to be some people that think he don't deserve it.
I agree with you.
But I think Lamar Jackson gets plenty of love overall.
When we talk about his play on the field,
yeah.
We talk about play.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is contracts and the way you're perceived with these contracts.
Because remember, the perception was, you're right, he does get a lot of love until it was time for him to get paid.
See, but
now he's a running quarterback. Now he's a quarterback who can't really throw the ball.
There's always going to be some. Listen, I don't think Lamar Jackson is as good as some other people think. Like, I like Lamar Jackson, but I don't think he's as good as Mahomes or Burrow or even Herbert or Allen. I don't think he is.
That's fine. Mm-hmm.
I don't think he is. I think he's in that next group. But I think there's a lot of. I do think the majority. I mean, I don't know. We don't have exact numbers. Nobody's keeping a chart on this. But my impression is that the majority of national media members that cover the NFL thought Lamar got what he deserved, and it was a fair contract. I feel like that's the case. Mike, you watch a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was weird because he held out, and then the initial discussions were, well, is he worth more money than the top guys?
Right. But we know the next guy always gets more money
and that's
when
my
you're
point.
at that
Yeah.
level. And yes, race certainly plays a role. When Bill Polian said, I don't think Lamar Jackson
He's
is
a
a
running
quarterback.
back. That was
If Lamar
horseshit.
Jackson were white with the same athletic ability,
He wouldn't say that.
he would never have said that. Ever. Never. And so, of course, stop being phonies and say, leave race out of it. First of all, we don't bring up race all the time. We bring it up once in a while because it is part of the conversation. And it's part of every conversation. It's not the only part of the conversation, but it certainly is. And when it comes to quarterbacks, it's been a huge part of the conversation. Fortunately now, it's not what it used to be, but it doesn't mean it's perfect.
And Lamar Jackson the last 2 years, G, and this is where I think part of the split on the Lamar Jackson contract talks have been, in the last 2 seasons, he's thrown 31 touchdowns and 20 interceptions.
Yeah,
in total.
I mean, I get on him on the field all the time.
Yeah.
I get on. See, this is the thing too, right? There's the way the game works is no one comes out and there outwardly be like, I don't like you because of A, B, and C, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That's not. No one is that dumb in this industry to do that.
Some people. Well, not this industry.
And unless it's a hot mic, right?
Yeah.
But here's so to think about this, right? People will say this, and I just give you this because, and people say, why you bring up the owners all the time? Well, there's no black owners, majority owners. So all I have to do is I have to compare and contrast. So I'm looking at it. They always say you were rewarded. You were rewarded. You were rewarded. They use that all the time with his $230 million, right, Mike McNuggets?
Mm-hmm. 230.
230. He was rewarded. So let me ask you a question. So when Donald Sterling got his team taken away, right, for very bad things, racial comments, all that stuff.
Yeah.
When he sold his team, did he sell it for less or more than he paid for it?
Way more.
2-3-fold.
Yeah.
Was he rewarded?
Yes.
Okay. When Daniel Snyder had to sell his team, NFL franchise, because he was sexist, misogynist, had all kind of
Piece of
stuff.
shit.
All that.
Yeah.
When he sold it, did he get more or less?
Way more.
Okay.
Suns owner,
more or less. So when
Yeah.
you say that, and you sit here and you act like you on a moral soapbox, what happens is people like me be like, well, listen, honestly, you didn't really think this through because nobody is sitting on those stages being like, he was rewarded. They should have
That's
just
right.
stripped him and gave him what he was owed.
And to that point, did Kyle Brandt have a problem talking about the Commanders the last few years?
No.
That guy's a real piece of shit.
He had no. So him. See that? See,
It's disingenuous.
It's disingenuous, and he's grandstanding to be. I'm just keeping it real. No, you're not keeping it real. What you're saying is, you understand how this game works. You get paid for what your talent level is, or what people are willing to pay you. At the end of the day, there was a whole bunch of people that work for ESPN, right? They got let go, right? And you look at how much they get paid. You think any of them was worth that money?
No.
and they got it. And
Mike Greenberg makes $6 million a year. He's awful. So Mike Greenberg, how is that guy getting $6 million a year?
So the people that never played, that ain't never done nothing, can make more than the people that they rat about.
There's no salary cap in business, G.
Huh?
It only exists in sports. There's no salary cap in business.
We got to be fine with that.
I'll take it because guess what? I don't count their checks. All I count is when you're being disingenuous. And guess what? We are professionals just like you are. If they got a game on TV, I don't have to say Robert Kraft's name. I don't have to say Roethlisberger's name. I can look at what's happening on the field and just take it for face value and merit. Break it down.
There's a reason why hockey bad guys are called goons and basketball bad guys are referred to as thugs. There's a reason for that.
There is.
Yeah, and like I said, man, to me, it's a selective morality based on a personal bias, right? Not even necessarily about race, because again, there's video evidence of what Kareem Hunt did, and I know for a fact I remember watching.
And that was with a woman also.
Yeah,
and we're not dry snitching.
Exactly.
We're not
so
trying to point out.
All I'm saying is, I remember at that time he had no problem talking about the Cleveland Browns.
I've never heard him say that before about any other team.
Yeah, so it's like
maybe he has, but I don't remember him ever saying it.
Like why all of a sudden now talking about this entire organization is the hugest problem in the world.
Well, Earl, you're a producer. Mike, you're a producer. Guess what? He understands the analytics just like y'all do. If you say Deshaun Watson, you're guaranteed 8,000 views.
Dude, I got over talking about this on my podcast Friday, I got over 5,200 YouTube views in 48 hours.
That means we got to beat that.
Go ahead.
So shout out to the people out there. We got to beat Bulls Podcast. It is now direct competition. We got